Palaeopterygidae are one of the oldest bats known. Despite this, they were already quite advanced, showing evidence of the ability to hunt by echolocation like modern insect-eating bats. They were small bats, with a wingspan between 25 and 30 centimeters. Their wings were short but broad, indicating an adaptation for slow but highly maneuverable flight beneath forest canopies and among dense vegetation. They preyed mostly on moths and caddisflies and were probably nocturnal. The delicate skeletons of bats do not fossilize well. It is estimated that only 12% of bat genera that lived have been found in the fossil record. The flying primate hypothesis proposed that when adaptations to flight are removed, megabats are allied to primates by anatomical features not shared with microbats, and thus flight evolved twice in mammals. Genetic studies have strongly supported the monophily of bats and the single origin of mammal flight. Onychonycteridae was the strongest evidence so far in the debate on whether bats developed echolocation before or after they evolved the ability to fly. It had well-developed wings, and could clearly fly, but lacked the enlarged cochlea of all extant echolocating bats, closely resembling the Old World fruit bats which do not echolocate. This indicates that early bats could fly before they could echolocate. It is unknown whether Icaronycteridae had the large eyes of most nocturnal animals, as specimens with intact eye sockets have yet to be found. A lack of enlarged eyes would indicate that this species may have been diurnal, solving the problem of how primitive bats evolved flight without the ability to navigate at night using echolocation. Onychonycteridae occurs alongside Icaronycteridae, previously thought to be the most primitive known bat species. Rodriguez flying fox is a sociable species which lives in large groups. It can reach 350 grams in weight and has a wingspan of 90 centimeters. At night, the bats forage in dry woodland for fruit of various trees. Like many other fruit bats, they squeeze out the juices and soft pulp, rarely swallowing the harder parts. They are hunted by humans for food, and their numbers have been dwindling. Indian flying foxes are one of the largest bat species in the world. They have a wingspan that can reach up to 1.5 meters. They are frugivorous, and their diet contributes to seed dispersal and pollination, making them ecologically important. Unlike microbats, which use echolocation to navigate and locate prey, Indian flying foxes rely primarily on their excellent eyesight and sense of smell. They have large eyes adapted for low-light conditions, allowing them to see and locate food in the dark. The black flying fox is among the largest bats in the world, but is considerably smaller than the largest species in its genus. This species had been known to travel up to 50 kilometers a night in search of food. Negative public perception of the species has intensified with the discovery of 3 recently emerged zoonotic viruses that are potentially fatal to humans: Australian bat lyssavirus, Hendra virus, and Menangle virus. During the day, individuals reside in large roosts consisting of hundreds to tens of thousands of individuals. The tube-nosed bat, like other bats in the family Thyropteridae, relies on its sight and smell to locate food, which mostly consists of figs and other rainforest fruits. The bat's tube-shaped nostrils may assist in locating ripe fruit. The 2 nostrils can move independently from each other, and may be concentrating aromas and following odor plumes through the rainforest. This function is often called stereoolfaction. The unusual nostril projections were once thought to act as a snorkel, allowing them breathe while the mouth is embedded in soft fleshed fruits. The straw-colored fruit bat is a highly social species. The bats tend to live in groups of over 100,000, and at times that number may increase to almost 1 million. At night the bats leave the roost in smaller groups to find food by sight and smell. They have also been seen chewing on soft wood for moisture. These bats can also pollinate flowers and disperse seeds through the forests. Although they feed at night, they are not necessarily nocturnal. During the day, they will be found resting and moving among the colony. Egyptian fruit bats are highly social animals and often form large colonies. They roost in trees, caves during the day, hanging upside down. They can congregate in colonies of several hundred bats and communicate with each other through vocalizations and scent marking. They have a polygamous mating system, with one male mating with multiple females. Breeding can occur year-round, although it may vary depending on the region. Females typically give birth to a single pup, and the young bats are cared for by their mothers until they are old enough to fly and forage on their own. Peters's dwarf epaulet fruit bat is a non-migratory bat as expected by its low aspect ratio wings. As would be anticipated by these wing dimensions, it inhabits tropical forests in this region along with woodlands. Life in this tropical region permits it to avoid hibernation and forage year-round. The long-tongued fruit bat feeds on nectar almost exclusively from banana flowers. It is nocturnal, foraging at night and roosting during the day in trees. The consumption of nectar requires the bat to come into direct contact with the pollen produced by the plants, allowing for pollination of the plants in its tropical environment and a mutual relationship between the plants and the bats. Wachtberg's epaulet fruit bat roosts in well-lit open trees, under palm fronds, in dense forests near rivers, under thatched roofs of sheds, and, rarely, in caves. Roosting groups may be 100 individuals. Bats typically change roost locations daily or every few days and may fly as far as 4 kilometers to feeding areas. Roost locations may follow the ripening of fruit trees. Alternatively, frequently changing roost sites may be a strategy to decrease predation. Males and females hammer-headed bats greatly differ in appearance, making them the most sexually dimorphic bat species in the world. These differences include several adaptations that help males produce and amplify vocalizations. The males' larynges are about 3 times as large as those of females, and they have large resonating chambers on their faces, giving them their strange appearance. The yellow-winged bat is a monogamous species. Males and females form pairs during the breeding season and establish their own foraging territories. They are no more than 1 meter apart when roosting together. Calls produced by this species include search phase echolocation calls and some social calls that can be heard by humans. Echolocation helps give the bat information on close objects. Lesser mouse-tailed bats are well adapted to live in hot, dry climates. They have slits or valves just above their nostrils which they can open or close at will, helping to keep the dust out. The bats have physiological control over their kidneys to reduce water loss. During the hot months, these bats move into covered shelters to escape the heat. They are considered to be a primitive bat in terms of echolocation, primarily due to the reason that these bats produce signals with 4 or more harmonics with limited frequency variation. The greater horseshoe bats have distinct horseshoe-shaped leaf-like structures called noseleaves on their faces, which help with echolocation. Like most bats, they use echolocation to navigate and locate their prey. They emit ultrasonic calls and listen for the echoes bouncing back from objects and insects. The nose-leaf structures on their faces help focus and direct the sound waves. They have a relatively long lifespan for a small mammal. They can live up to 20 to 30 years in the wild. They play a significant ecological role as insect predators. By consuming insects, they help control populations of agricultural pests and contribute to the overall balance of ecosystems. Cape horseshoe bats are endemic to Cape Province in South Africa, where they inhabit shrubby coastal environments. They are nocturnal, spending the day roosting in large colonies in coastal caves. They are ambush hunters, hiding among vegetation and preying mainly on beetles and moths. Their echolocation calls are relatively long, lasting from 28 to 42 milliseconds, with only short pauses between pulses. The greater bulldog bat lives primarily in tropical lowlands. The bats are commonly found over ponds and streams as well as estuaries and coastal lagoons. They live in colonies that number in the hundreds. It is one of the few bat species that has adapted to eating fish. Nevertheless, the bats eat both fish and insects. A bulldog bat will fly high in the air and in a circular direction when searching for prey. If it spots a jumping fish, the bat will drop down closer to the water surface, particularly the spot where it made the jump, and decreases the pulse duration and intervals of its echolocation signals. The most prominent anatomical feature of the Spix's disc-winged bat, which distinguishes it from other species, is the discs on its thumbs and hind feet. These circular discs act as suction cups, allowing the bats to cling onto and move along smooth surfaces. This manner of roosting is said to facilitate rapid escape in the event of a potential disturbance. The bat's discs take the shape of concave cups, and are supported by an internal cartilaginous plate. The flexor pollicis brevis muscle attaches to the plate, such that contraction of the muscle alters overall disc shape, creating suction. In order to maintain the integrity of the disc, the bat grooms it frequently by licking it. Ghost-faced bats prefer warm climates. They tend to roost in large colonies but not in tight clusters, being very particular in that they roost about 15 centimeters apart from one another. It survives on a diet of small insects. They use echolocation to identify their food at night and are able to catch insects in the darkness with little or no additional light. Lesser long-nosed bats feed mainly on nectar from night-blooming. They are important pollinators of night-blooming cactus. They may also eat some cactus fruits, and during the winter, on pollen from a range of other plants as the opportunity arises. They roost during the day in large colonies of up to several thousand individuals in caves or abandoned mines, dispersing at night to feed. The size and composition of such colonies varies throughout the year, as the bats migrate to summer feeding grounds. Jeffrey's tailless bat is primarily insectivorous, with up to 90% of its diet consisting of moths and beetles. However, they also eat some fruit and lap up nectar and pollen from a wide range of flowers. They are nocturnal, resting in caves close to water during the day, either alone, or in colonies of up to 300 individuals. The species is a swift flyer, and is able to hover. It uses both vision and echolocation to navigate. The long-snouted bat is rare, but has a wide distribution with at least 25 populations, and is listed as near threatened due to habitat loss causing the removal of their primary food source. The bat is known for its extremely elongated muzzle, which could indicate increased specialization. In addition, the tongue is long, extendable and covered in papillae. The upper incisors are broad and spoon-shaped with a diamond-shaped nose leaf. When in their roosts, the Jamaican fruit bat has a reproductive system known as resource-defensive polygyny. That is, males will claim an area as a territory and females select the best territories to roost and mate in. Subadult males may remain in their natal roosts while females may leave to gather with other females elsewhere. In caves where there are enough roosting sites, there is some female defensive polygyny. Like many bat species, Saba's short-tailed bat has a long lifespan, being able to live up to 10 years. Mortality rates for bats is 53% in the first 2 years of life, but that goes down to 22% in the following years. As with other bats, the metabolism of these bats follows a U-shape during flight. This means that they use the most energy when flying at low and high air speeds, and use less energy at moderate speeds. The little yellow-shouldered bat roosts alone in tree cavities, on branches, vines, and under palm leaves, usually keeping to the same roosts day to day. There is evidence to suggest hypothermia is a thermoregulatory strategy to help adjust metabolic levels. Ambient temperature has been noted as a greater influence on mating than food availability. Its wing shape can also be affected by pregnancy in order to make flight more efficient. Spectral bats are carnivorous and primarily feed on other bats, birds, small mammals and occasionally large insects. They are known to be skilled predators and have adaptations such as sharp teeth and powerful jaws to capture and consume their prey. Like most bats, spectral bats are nocturnal, being active during the night. They have excellent night vision and rely on echolocation to navigate and locate their prey in the darkness. Echolocation involves emitting ultrasonic calls and listening for the echoes that bounce back from objects and prey. Pallas's long-tongued bat has the fastest metabolism ever recorded in a mammal, similar to those of hummingbirds. Although it uses 50% of its stored fat over the course of a day, over 80% of its energy comes directly from the simple sugars that compose its diet of nectar, without being stored in any form. A 2013 study determined that their tongues have a mopping ability that is powered by blood, a phenomenon unique in nature. Elongated hairs at the tongue's tip, which normally lie flat, become engorged with blood when the tongue is protruded. As a result, the hairs stand in erect rows, perpendicular to the tongue. The efficiency of this feeding mechanism is believed to enable the bat's survival on limited food sources. The flight of the California leaf-nosed is remarkable chiefly for its extreme maneuverability. The bat flies fairly rapidly on occasion, but the usual foraging flight is slow and buoyant, and more nearly silent than that of most bats. In level flight its wings make a soft fluttering sound that is less sharp and carrying than the sounds made by the wing beats of most other bats. The Antillean fruit-eating bat moves out from the roost synchronically 1 hour after sunset and 20 minutes after the Jamaican fruit bat. This synchronization is also evident when returning to the roosts, which happens just before the break of dawn. Individuals roost in a variety of settings. Sites without direct sunlight are preferred by the species. Unlike most bats that feed on fruits or insects, the common vampire bat has a specialized diet of blood. They feed primarily on the blood of mammals. They have adaptations that allow them to feed on blood. They make small, shallow incisions with their razor-sharp teeth, usually near the ankles or feet of their prey. They then use their tongues to lap up the blood, which contains anticoagulant enzymes to keep it flowing. Vampire bats can carry diseases, including rabies. While the transmission of rabies from vampire bats to humans is relatively rare, it can occur through bites or scratches. The dark gray skin of the hairless bat is largely hairless, but may have some fine patches of hair around the throat and under hind foot. They scent mark their territories with secretions from glands located at the tip of the neck. They are nocturnal, migratory, and colonial. Hunting starts early in the morning and they typically prey on larger insects than other bats. Unlike some closely related genera of free-tailed bat, the large-eared free-tailed bat upper lip is not wrinkled. It is believed that this species forages for food in the rainforest canopy. It possibly roosts within tree hollows. Lesser sheath-tailed bat is nocturnal, roosting in sheltered places such as caves during the day. At night, it forages for its prey, insects, along forest streams, in dense forests, and in clearings. A study confirmed that bats, when they are able to see, prefer to use their vision over echolocation. It is known as the graysack winged bat first because of the sacs located between the wrist and the neck on the membrane of the wing, which is far more prominent and developed in males than in females. This sac is a defining feature. In this bat, the sac is in the center of the antebrachial membrane, while in others it is not centrally located. The bats start hunting a little before sunset, and they fly relatively slowly. It was measured that the males fly at approximately 10 km per hour. Like its relatives, the sacs of the greater sac-winged bat are used by males to attract females and to mark their harem territory. During daily grooming, males will fill these sacs with drops of urine and glandular secretions. During displays for females, the male will hover in front of the female and fan her vigorously to expose her to the scent of the mixture in the wing sacs. Microbial fermentation in the sac may produce identifiable scent signals. Unlike most bats, Egyptian slit-faced bat is not heterothermic, displaying no evidence of hibernation or torpor behaviors. One explanation for this might be that hibernation makes it highly vulnerable to predation. The bats use high-frequency and low-intensity echolocation calls to locate prey. The low wing loading and low aspect ratio allows them to hover and swipe prey from the ground or from the tops of trees. Pallid bats have been identified in the fossil record from late Pleistocene deposits in the western United States and Cuba. They are a unique bat species because they are heterothermic, meaning they can be either poikilothermic or homeothermic depending on the time of year. They have the ability to control their body temperature and equilibrate it with the environment during winter hibernation and whenever they rest. Hoary bat normally roosts alone on trees, hidden in the foliage, but on occasion has been seen in caves with other bats. It prefers woodland, mainly coniferous forests, but hunts over open areas or lakes. It hunts alone and its main food source is moths. The bats can cover an impressive 39 kilometers while foraging. Allen's big-eared bat has an external morphology like that of gleaning bats, which means they have adaptations required for plucking stationary insects from surfaces. To do this, they have long trachean ears, wings adapted for maneuverability and hovering flight, and a gracile jaw. It is the only species in North America known to emit long, constant frequency modulated echolocation calls. The spotted can reach a length of 12 centimeters and a wingspan of 35 centimeters. The weight is about 15 grams with ears that can grow up to 4 centimeters. It is said to have the largest ears of any bat species in North America. The spotted bat's mating season is in autumn and the females produce their offspring in June or July. Its main diet is grasshoppers and moths. Brown long-eared bat hunts above woodland, often by day, and mostly for moths, but its diet also consists of earwigs, flies, and beetles, gleaning these insects from leaves and bark. Prey is probably detected by sight and sound using the large eyes and ears, not by echolocation. These bats have relatively large eyes and ears, and it is likely that visual information and passive listening allow this species to detect prey in cluttered environments. This hunting strategy evolved because prey items, namely certain moth species, evolved the ability to hear the echolocation and take evading action. Like its relatives, the greater mouse-eared bat is an insectivore, feeding on various arthropods. However, unlike many bats, it does not capture its prey by using echolocation in flight. Instead, it gleans it from the ground, locating prey passively by listening for the noises produced by insects. As a result, it uses echolocation only for spatial orientation, even if it emits ultrasound calls when approaching prey. Daubenton's bat is found throughout Ireland and Europe, and as far as Japan and Korea. The bat is mostly found in woodlands and often chooses roosts close to water sources such as rivers or canals. The bats emerge at twilight to hunt for insects over the water. Their main diets consist mainly of non-biting midges and other midges. Small flies, mayflies, and moths are regularly found in their diet. The bat often eats its prey while still in flight. A 7-gram specimen often returns weighing 11 grams after a 1-hour feeding, increasing its body weight by 57%. Like many other species of microbats, the big brown bat often uses echolocation to navigate. This means that the species emits a call out into its environment and listens to the echoes of those calls that return from various objects near them. Using echolocation, they can determine how far away an object is, the object size, shape and density, and the direction that an object is moving. Their use of echolocation allows them to occupy a niche where there are often many insects, less competition for food, and fewer species that may prey on the big brown bat itself. The facial features of the lesser hairy-winged bat are simple, as it mainly relies on vocally emitted echolocation. The tail is enclosed by the lower flight membranes between the legs. The common pipistrelle is an edge specialist, preferring to forage along woodland edges and along isolated tree lines. The name of the genus is derived from the Italian word pipistrello, meaning bat. It is one of the most common bat species in Europe. However, its decline in the UK has been attributed to loss of foraging habitat due to agriculture intensification.